Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and it is just after 9 o'clock Eastern, 4th of July weekend, and it is time for Sales Logic. I know you're probably at the lake, at the beach, hiding out in the mountains, thinking this is a rest kind of weekend, but guess what? It's a good time to focus on sales. Hanging out here in the green room with my partner, Mark Hunter. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing good. It's 4th of July weekend, so that makes it a 3-day weekend to work.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So anyway, it's hard to believe, though. It really means that we are moving in to the back half of the year and really doing what you need to do to get 2022 in order and on set to reach your goals.
It was funny. I got several notes yesterday from various VPs of sales I work with and sending out notes to their team. First half is done. Second half is over. It's like, wow, that went quick. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let me hit the video and we will get ready to do the show.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
This is Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to really sell more effectively and more logically. Now, before I turn this over to Mark and he tells you what we've got on the schedule for today, I'm just going to give you a quick overview as to how the show works. Every week we come to you somewhere around 9 a.m. Eastern on Saturday mornings. We cover a hot topic. We have a question from you, the audience. That's right. We always want you to be a part of this show. Live in the chat or send us your question at saleslogicpodcast.com. We cover a book and we leave you with a lightning round so you can have some really good strategies you can put into place immediately. So, Mark, what is on tap for today?
Well, the topic we have today is what are best practices for coaching a sales team? Fits in perfectly with the question that comes from Randy in New Jersey. He asks, I manage 8 salespeople. How do I find the time to coach them when I also have a full set of responsibilities I need to do for corporate? Gee, is that an age-old question, right? I mean, yeah. you and I have both had to answer that question in respective jobs, right? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I love that. He said, I have these roles and responsibilities for corporate. So I want to kick off by really asking the question, and I think it's a very important question that any leader needs to ask themselves in terms of a sales leader. But if you're like Mark and I, and you're in business for yourself, you need to ask this question too. At the end of the day, what does corporate really care about, or what is most important to the growth of your business? The answer to that is always going to be results. Like, if I don't file something, does it really matter? If I don't book business, does it matter? Absolutely. So you need to begin by, as a sales leader, if you're questioning whether you have time to coach or not, I think you have your priorities backwards.
I've got 2 comments I always used to say. Volume covers up a lot of sins. And 2, what is responsible? What is it that you have to do for corporate? It depends on who's asking. Because again, right? How many times do you get those stupid requests and you say, I'm going to ignore it? But here's the whole thing. You can deal with the short-term stuff, which is taking care of corporate. But coaching your people up is that 24/7 investment. That's that investment that keeps on giving. Because the stronger your people become, the better your results will be. So it can be tempting to become a spreadsheet jockey. It can become tempting to focus in on what corporate wants to do and wants you to do. But I'll tell you what, you got to make sure that you have time allocated there to be coaching your people, because that's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges of being a sales leader is that you're middle management. Right, you're typically reporting up through, some kind of sales executive, a marketing executive, an operational executive, somebody like that, and you tend to take your direction from them. Now, at the fear of freaking out any C-suite professionals who are listening to us, don't take your direction from there. I used to have to decide whether I was going to win the war or win the battle. And my job was to let executive management slap me for losing battles and then reward me when I won the war. What I mean by that is they used to come up with all these things that they would want me to do all year long, but they were things that took me away from getting my team to exceed their goals. And I knew at the end of the year, all senior leadership really cared about was whether I delivered on the goals that hit the P&L, the goals that hit the budget. And if I focused my time and my attention there, they would forget all the battles that I lost. So coaching my people was my number one priority. It was over everything. It was more important than calling on my own customers. Because if I could develop people, I now had, in your case, 8 people who could do what I could do or do it better. And that's what you're looking to do.
Here's what I find. Sales managers who lack confidence will do anything they need to do for corporate because, they've got to play the game. Because they're not confident in the role. The competent, confident sales manager will do the minimalist work for corporate, knowing that their job is to deliver the numbers. And when they deliver the numbers, that's how you create job security. Because remember, as a sales manager, you've got a number, but so too does your boss. So Guess what? You miss your number, and guess what? It puts your boss's number at risk. So I would much rather be having conversations with my boss over, here's the volume I'm going to get. Here's what we're going to deliver. How is this helping you with your number? Versus, I didn't get this report in on time. This report doesn't quite look right. I don't care. It's the volume because that's what counts.
Yeah, I love this. I love this quote from our LinkedIn user in South Africa. Stuff corporate, be in the trenches with your team. Really,
I love that.
Really well said. Very, very well said. And again, if you don't have a team and you're listening to this, ask yourself, is it more important to develop your own skills or get your files organized? And the truth is, it's more important to be working to develop your skills to get more business on the bottom line. Priorities get very confused. Mark, I don't know if you have this experience, but I'm guessing you do. If you go in and you talk to the CEO of a company, and let's just say it's a large company, she'll tell you that she's looking to grow the company. She wants to build the people. Those are her priorities. Then everybody in the middle muddles that. And by the time it reaches the frontline personnel can think some of those other things are more important. But ask yourself, what does our chairman, what does our CEO really want from me? And make the decision to go that way.
So true, because so many times we get messages from corporate headquarters, whatever you want to call it. And if it's a loud bark, we think we got to respond to it. And you've got to put the context of what is the request, what is the action that's being asked of you in context with the bigger picture. And, it's funny, but you hit a sore spot, filing and so forth. Are you looking at my desktop right now?
Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, it's an absolute mess. And what's funny is I've had it on my list that I need to kind of clean up some files for probably a month or two. And you know what? It'll still be on my list a month or two from now because I'd rather be chasing business. I'd rather be chasing volume. So come back to the question, Randy. Randy, what you need to do is you need to say, hey, your work is going to expand to the amount of time you give it. And if you give all day to corporate, that's all you're going to do. This is the big fallacy of sales managers. They spend Mondays in the office taking care of corporate. They spend Friday taking care of reports. No, excuse me. That is totally upside down. I want you to allocate your calendar for your people first and back your way into the time that's left to deal with corporate. Because you know what? You'll get it done. You'll get it done, and you'll see better results from your people.
Yeah, I love, again, our LinkedIn user from South Africa piping in, as a sales leader, manage upwards, manage your boss. Such a great point here because, let's assume that I report to Mark, and we're going to make Mark the big, bad, evil corporate guy who's trying to derail me from spending time with my people and asking me for really irrelevant things. The truth is, I can sit down in front of Mark and say, great. Now, Mark, I only have 10 hours to work today. I can spend 6 of those outside making calls one-on-one with people, or I can file those reports. Which would you prefer I do? Which would you prefer I prioritize? That's a great example of managing upwards. The other thing I want to say is something that Mark really honed in on, which I think is incredibly important. If you do not prioritize spending time coaching your salespeople, you are sending a loud signal they are not important. One of my pet peeves, and if you ever work with me one-on-one, I will crucify you for doing, and that is canceling a coaching session. Because when you cancel a coaching session, you say you're not important. If I have a one-on-one with Mark and my CEO calls me and says, Meridith, can you meet with me at 3:00 today? My response needs to be no. I have a coaching session with Mark Hunter, one of our top salespeople, because really, Mark Hunter is more important than my CEO. And I need to signal to him that his development is the most valuable thing to me as a sales leader.
See, there's several things that we've been talking about here that resonate hard. First of all, how you coach, how you manage time with your salespeople is how they're going to manage their time with their customers. If you are one to suddenly cancel meetings at the last minute with your salespeople, guess what? They will say, oh, meetings with customers I can cancel too. And it's amazing how you lead your people is how your customers will lead their customers. The second piece you really have to take a look at is this. You want to create a tree. You want to create, we talk about in the coaching world and even in the CEO world, who are the people who are the people who have worked for Jamie Dimon, who have gone on to become CEOs of other companies. This is something that I prided myself on when I was leading people. I wanted to be able to promote people further up into the organization. I wanted to create my tree. That's the legacy that you lead, which then comes back to a simple thing. And let's as we shift gears to the topic, best practices. Here's the whole thing. HR is going to push you to spend time working with the low performer, to spend time doing this. And I'll tell you what, you want to generate results? You spend time working with your upper third people, not your lower third people. Ooh, that just hit home on some people.
Yeah, I mean, that is so true. It's funny. I was just talking with a group the other day. They've got to make really significant change in their organization. It's really big. And most people are buffing it. They have zero desire to do it. And I asked the question, I said, of all the members of your team, and it's a sales team, I said, did anybody buy in? And they named this one guy. They said, he's all about it. He can't wait to be held accountable. He can't wait. I said, put all your time and energy there. I said, separate the pack. Because most people, when you introduce change, they're not resistant. They're just a little confused and a little hesitant and a little unsure as to where to go. So if you as a leader put your time and energy into the top performer, the person who wants to make the change, the rest of the pack will follow that person because they want to be successful. If you put them into the dead weight on your team, well, they'll go, oh, that's where the sales manager's giving their time and attention. That must be the right thing to do.
Here's the whole thing. Any good sales manager is always going to be pressed for time. And I was coaching an up and coming sales manager. This was about a year ago. And he had, I believe, 6 or 7 people on his team. And I told him what you want to do is you want to identify who are the 2 on your team that have the most long-term potential, that have the greatest potential to make a difference. That's where you focus more of your efforts. And what's very interesting was he had a couple low performers on his team. And he said, hey, what do I do with these people? What do I do with these people? I said, hey, right now you got to deliver numbers. Because if you don't deliver numbers, your team doesn't live, you don't live. So you got to focus there on the top. What's interesting is he focused time on the top. His bottom people actually picked up the drift of the message and picked up their game too. And it was interesting. Fast forward about 9 months. This was about 3 or 4 months ago. I was with that team again. And one of his lowest performing people back at the beginning was now clearly in the upper third. Very interesting. Yet the entire time he was focused on his top 2 people.
Yeah, I love what Patrick Tinney is saying here. He said, my old boss, who was a former CEO with Simmons Mattresses, liked to take walks. So every day I would invite him to walk at lunch and he'd get a 30-minute coaching session. What I love about this, Patrick, and we could do a whole nother show about it, is if your sales leader isn't coaching you, go get your sales leader, grab the time, get that time from them. But Mark, wow, you have opened up a whole nother can, because the truth is, as a sales leader, I mean, look at Randy. He's got 8 people to coach. I mean, that's a lot of people. And the very first thing you do need to do is produce the numbers. So years ago, when I was in corporate, I had 3 territories that I needed to manage and a serious set of numbers I needed to hit. Now, at first, I was trying to spread myself thin and go everywhere I could go and coach everybody equally and give everybody the amount of time. And then I looked at it and I realized that if 3 of my branches met their goals, then I would blow past the goal that had been sent to me. That meant that 9 branches I didn't need to focus that heavily on. So I prioritized those 3, got them really set and going so that they were marching to hit goal, to kind of get the monkey off our back. And then I could start to focus my attention on the other one. So I think you have to look at your own time, and you can say, well, gosh, that's unfair to the other people. But the truth is, you're role modeling for people. That's the way they need to manage their portfolios. They need to look at those portfolios and say, which customers are going to get me over the edge? Which customers are going to ensure that I produce? So there's so much there in how you need to solve the problem and focus.
It's the old 80-20 rule. I mean, 80% of anything comes from 20%, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's simple. So the whole thing is, who are those people that are right up at the top of the food chain? If I can move, because here's what happens. We talk about having a full pipeline. When you have a full pipeline, it's amazing how much more confident you are. This is what happens when you've got your top people performing at an exponential level. And here's the whole thing. You know what's very interesting? You work with top performing people, you coach them, it jazzes you. It gives you a tremendous amount of, you spend time with dead weight people, and oh man, I mean, it drags you down. And I know HR is going to go ballistic on this. And sure, there's documentation and so forth and yada, yada, yada. I get all that. But you still got to make sure that you're carving out time. And here's the thing. If your top performing people are saying, hey, I don't need you to work with me, I don't want you working with me, guess what? They don't see you as a top performing sales leader.
Yeah. They don't
now we have
bring
another
something to
issue.
the table.
That is a completely different issue. And again, we should devote an episode to that one. Because here's the whole thing. There's a lot of weak sales leaders out there, and they're only comfortable working with the dead weight people because that's how they look good. Wow. Now we got an issue.
Yeah. All right. So what's our topic?
Well, our topic is what are best practices.
Okay, good. That's what I thought. So we've been talking about so much that I wanted to make sure that I was on target with that.
I wouldn't let you get off topic. I'm going to keep you focused.
Well, I think one of the most important best practices that we can use as sales coaches is to coach live. So often we think a coaching session is Mark coming into my office and us talking about his pipeline and things like that. But I think more powerful coaching is for me to get on a call, schedule something with Mark, not to say a word, to let Mark run that call start to finish. Then we get in the car or we turn off the Zoom and we talk about it. And I let Mark tell me what he thinks he did really well. And then I give my observations. So I think live coaching is an incredible best practice.
And you always create next steps from every coaching session. And what you want to do, this is just like a sales call, okay? You come out of a coaching session, you create a set of next steps. Here's what I want you to focus on. Here's what I want you to do. And then the next time you work with them, where do you start? You start by following up with what they were to have been working on. Because again, if you don't inspect what you expect, you won't get anything. And I see this too many times. What happens is sales leaders do coaching sessions as kind of one-off events. It's just a one-off event. And then they come back around to them a few weeks later, a month later. No, it's got to be a continuous process. Gee, it's just like managing that account. It's just like what the salesperson is being asked to do every day in their job. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this question. I'm going to say Wasim. If I butchered your name, I'm so sorry about that. But you want to know how to motivate weakest or low performers of the team, although you gave lots of time to them. one of the biggest things that you need to figure out is, I'm going to argue, you can't motivate them. Motivation is an inside job, and that's something I have to do myself. But you need to decide if it's a skill issue or a discipline issue. And what I mean by that is, years ago, I had an employee who was just so defeated. Boy, she would do all the behaviors we asked her to do. She would make as many calls. She built her prospect list. She recorded everything in the CRM, but she couldn't close a deal. So it wasn't a discipline issue, because I was clear on what I was asking her to do. We were tracking what we were asking her to do, and she was doing what we were asking her to do. And that is the moment that I knew it was a skill issue. So I did a couple of calls with her and noticed that her problem was completely in her conversation. We were able to turn it around like that. But to motivate weak performing employees, you need to decide if it's a discipline or a skill issue. If it's a discipline issue, you need to reprimand them and get them off the team. If it's a skill issue, then you need to do some one-on-one work with them. And that's fair for it to be a skill issue with them.
You hit on several things there. First of all, if you got dead weight, the faster you get rid of them, the more your team will respect you.
Yeah.
If you hold on to dead weight, guess what? Your team looks at you as saying, you're not an effective manager. You are not effective. There's another piece there, and I love this whole thing. You can't motivate anybody. All we can do as a sales manager is create an environment for people to motivate themselves. Think about that for a moment. All we can do is create an environment for people to motivate themselves, because motivation, like you said, is an internal process. You are either motivated or you're not. Hey, time is slipping by. Wow. We got to jump into the book. The book, Simon Sinek.
Oh, good
right?
one.
Leaders Eat Last. I'll tell you what, this has been out for a few years, and I grabbed it off my bookshelf the other day because I was looking for some ideas to share with a couple of sales managers. This book is gold. If you haven't read this book, you need to read it. Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. In fact, I love everything he writes. So anyway, hey, ready for the lightning round?
Well, I think we need to answer Patrick's question pretty quickly. Yeah. What is the most important question you ask a potential new hire for your sales team when interviewing?
I love it. How do you see yourself fitting into this organization? And more importantly, what do you see as the impact, and how will you make an impact with your customers?
Great.
That's kind of the framework of the question. And I know that was a twofold question. Sorry, Pat. I couldn't answer it with one.
My question is, tell me your ideal day. I want to know, if I were going to allow you to come in here, what would be your ideal day? Because here's what I discover. I can never get somebody who loves to be behind the desk to be on the street. And I can never get anybody who loves to be on the street to sit behind a desk. So when I ask you freely what your ideal day is, I find where you're going to fit best in this organization. All right. Sorry. Yeah. Lightning round.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I love the sales. We're getting a lot of great comments from people we don't normally hear from. I know, Patrick, you're always on it, but we're hearing from a lot of other people. It's great. Hey, lightning round. Are you ready?
Yes.
Quick. Oh, in fact, you know what? Before we jump to the lightning round, we should talk about, we got a little bonus deal that is coming up here on July 20th, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to do a live 2-hour show, noon to 2 Eastern, all about sales leadership. You're going to want to mark down Thursday, it's Wednesday, July 20th,
Wednesday,
noon to 2 Eastern. Tune in right here live. We're going to be coming to you. Mark and I are actually going to be in studio together, and we're going to do a show all based on sales leadership.
And we've got a sign up page that I got to find the link. I'll put it in the notes right after this is over, but you can get signed up, get registered for that. And talking about live and in person, we're going to be live and in person next week in Nashville.
Yeah, we are going to be live and in person. That's right. Coming to you live.
Next week's show, you and I will be sitting right next to each other. Okay, lightning round. Let's go. Lightning round. Quick things any overworked sales manager can do to be an effective coach.
Number 1 is determine what your top 3 priorities are. What really matters.
Number 2, focus on your top performers.
Number 3, be really clear on expectations from people. Get really clear on the behaviors and communicate.
Number 4, with every request you get from corporate, ask yourself the why and is it needed now? And if it's not, don't do it.
Yeah. Make sure that your team members know what's expected of them in a coaching session. Make them come prepared to lead the coaching session. Get the monkey off your back.
Make sure you take time to praise your sales team publicly when they do something significant. Motivate your team by creating an environment to motivate themselves, and you do that by praising them publicly.
Use sales meetings as coaching opportunities. Don't put all the coaching on you. Have everybody bring a win to a coaching session, a loss to a coaching session, randomly call on people and get them to coach one another.
Never take the time to stop and realize that you should be thankful that you're in this situation, that you're overworked, because it means that the company has placed responsibility in you, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Realize that you do control your schedule. If you're overworked, then get rid of some things. Ask yourself, are you delegating enough? Are you busy or are you productive? And take control of the situation.
Great. I'll share one more, you'll share one more, and we'll close it down. At the end of the day, realize your objective is to one thing: move the organization forward, and realize that the sun will still come up the next day and you'll get to do it again.
Yeah, I would say manage your boss. Go to your boss with your top 3 focus. Let them know that you're going to be focusing on these 3 things and that you're forgetting about the rest. In essence, get permission to skinny down your schedule.
I love that. Hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you $1, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
Your uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
and the sale becomes logical.
All right. I cannot thank you, Kim. I am so glad you decided to jump in today, that you weren't going to focus with us today because you thought it was on sales leadership. Thank you big time to this audience. You have been fantastic. I'm so surprised we had so much energy on a holiday weekend. And as always, you are a fantastic audience. We will see you right back here, 9 a.m. Eastern, live next week. We'll be coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee. If you have a question, please send it to saleslogicpodcast.com. Rate and review the show, and hope you close a bunch of deals this week.
And look for and in the notes in just a moment, look for the registration link to get registered, July 20th, noon to 2 Eastern time.
All right. We'll see you next week. Bye.